We're in an historic drought, and that demands unprecedented action. It's for that reason that I'm issuing an executive order mandating substantial water reduction across our state. As Californians, we have to pull together and save water in every way we can.
And we welcome you back to America's Forum. That also includes $1 billion.
Wow. From
California taxpayers, as announced earlier this week by Governor Jerry Brown, trying to tackle that problem. Miranda Kahn, Vera Gibbons here. And also joining us now to go in depth on this, if I could pull up my sheet here real quick, please excuse me as we get caught up to speed. James Hirsen.
Yeah.
I'm sorry about that, James. Good to have you there.
Hey, good to be with you.
Now, again, we've talked about this in the past. I do see you were able to shave today, so California is not completely dry.
I'm thirsty. I'm
Yes.
very thirsty. No, and it's mainly, I mean, he's ordered a 25% cutback. And when you look around, I mean, there's lots of ways to conserve water that people don't. I mean, one of the things that's going to be a thing of the past are lush green lawns in California. I think people are going to have colored rocks. Because not only, this executive order portends fines, it portends criminality, and also it encourages neighbors basically to inform on other neighbors who are wasting water, say, for example, washing cars or watering lawns too much. And this is it's a 4-year-long drought, and it's a devastating drought. There's no question about it. But this is part of the California history. This is the 9th multi-year drought since the year 1900. And it is not the worst, but what compounds it is the fact that California is the most populated state in the country, and it is growing rapidly, expected to have 50 million by the year 2020, and that creates an even greater demand for water. So what's going to ultimately be in the cards for California in the future is desalination plants, which is going to take a long time to gear up and cost a lot of money. But that, to me, since California is a lot of desert, and so droughts are part of its geography.
James, I have to ask you, though, I've heard what's different about this drought as compared to the past is that there's no longer water that they can take from the reserves.
Well, the main reason for that is, again, the increased population and increased demands. When you talk about reserves, it has to do with the fact that the demand is greater than the amount of water that's in when we talk about reserves, they're in these like water tanks throughout the state. But California gets a significant, especially Southern California, gets a significant amount of its water from other states. So this is going to be a political and economic issue for the state for years to come. But California has this pattern where it goes dry, and then all of a sudden the floodgates literally open up, and then we'll have headlines about another crisis with mudslides, floods, and of course still Jerry Brown. So multiple crises in California.
Well, James, it seems also that it's going to really, hit consumers hard on the pocketbook. I mean, what's your take on that in terms of the ramifications going forward beyond the brown lawns and all these other problems that could potentially exist?
Well, of course. I mean, look, this is an opportunity for government to raise revenue. So there will be a really extensive fines. And this has happened repeatedly. Jerry Brown was governor in 1977. And he didn't have an executive order per se. It wasn't mandatory, but he called for a 20% reduction in water during a drought in his first term as governor, back when he was dating Linda Ronstadt. So things kind of happen in cycles. Will California survive this? I think it will, but I think it's going to. I think this is a good thing. The conservation is a good thing. A little bit of discipline in an undisciplined state might be good for the state's psyche a little bit.
Well, let's all certainly hope so, and let's hope they can maybe avoid another crisis, as you may have foretold there, James Hirsen, with the floods eventually coming back to California. We're going to continue this conversation. I do want to talk more too about the political fallout. California already in a deficit and it has a ton of debt. Can they really afford to do what Governor Brown wants to do with this water plan? We're all coming right back. More discussion on this right after this short break.
Someone had told me there's this cult and they'll make anything possible in your life.
I was deeply convinced that we were going to save the world.
You feel euphoric.
Everything you do for endless trillions of years depends on what you do with and in Scientology.
Another earth-shattering documentary there from HBO on the heels of the Robert Durst documentary, which is getting a lot of talk too. That's some clips from Going Clear, a documentary about the Church of Scientology, and
Yeah, it actually follows 8 former members of the religion. They're talking about their experiences while in the church, and some of those include issuing several shocking allegations like blackmail, stolen government documents, and shunning. And I've been watching it. It's really eye-catching. Yeah, it is fascinating.
On a number of levels. Let's bring James Hirsen back in to talk about this. James, obviously, the Church of Scientology has a big foothold there in Los Angeles and Hollywood. What has been the reaction thus far to this documentary?
Well, I think the biggest reaction and the talk among people in the business is about Tom Cruise, because the allegations center around him, somewhat about John Travolta, the two most notable celebrities who have both been spokespersons for this group. But the allegations in this, by the way, this documentary had the highest ratings of any documentary to premiere on HBO so far. And therefore, it's reached a wider audience and it's created a tremendous buzz. And the allegations include that Tom Cruise allowed his children to be, and the word they use is turned, meaning basically indoctrinated in the church against their mother, against his former wife, Nicole Kidman, and that he had her phone tapped. The film alleges that the Church of Scientology actually intentionally broke up that marriage, that someone was assigned to do that within the church. So it shows not only the dark side of Scientology, but something that could affect Tom Cruise's career, especially when it appears to be, at that point where it's over the apex. And he has a Mission Impossible sequel coming out. He always has a Mission Impossible sequel coming out. I think it's scheduled for the summer. And, the insiders are watching very closely whether this could create a tipping point for Tom Cruise. I think John Travolta's already passed that tipping point. But in 1955, the Church of Scientology created what they called Project Celebrity. And they opened a center in Hollywood. They built an extensive Scientology center and did some very aggressive recruiting, which is talked about in this documentary. And they were able to recruit a long list of celebrities: Kirstie Alley, Jenna Elfman, a whole bunch of prominent musicians, including Beck. And I don't know whether all of these people are still active, but the documentary, because of the prominence of the people in it and their high rank in the church, I think it's created a bit of stigma for those. It used to be just fine to be in an alternative religion like that. And I think it may have created a little bit of stigma. And you note that there's not a lot of the younger celebrities who are associating themselves with this movement.
So, James, in the 30 seconds that we have remaining, what do you think is going to happen as a result of this documentary? Because it's getting a lot of buzz.
No, it is getting a lot of buzz. At the end of the day, though, I don't think anything will happen. And the reason I say that is because this is a very difficult balancing test. At a time when the big story is a Religious Freedom Restoration Act, we have to remember that what is the difference between a religion and a cult is a very fine line. And if anything, I think in this country we err allowing people to choose their religious expression, whether it's right or wrong. Now, to the extent that the allegations are true in this documentary, that the Church of Scientology has engaged in illegal acts, then I do think there could be some...
Yeah, the result could be a withdrawal of their tax-exempt status if this picks up traction as it appears to be doing. But we got to leave it there. James Hirsen, we'll talk more about the water because I don't think that's going away anytime soon, so we'll have you back. Good to see you.